What's up, everybody? Yo, yo. Welcome back, everybody. It is Tyler with Hooksets Are Free. It's almost 9:30 here p.m. Mountain Standard Time on Friday night, January 21st of 2022. Hope you guys are doing well. I just thought I'd hop on here. I got a package in the mail from Discount Tackle that I want to unbox and show you guys, as well as just talk about a couple other things. I have been working on some homemade crankbaits. I'll show you just a couple of them that I'm starting to work on. And I was texting with my buddy Ron Hawley, Bassless chap. I don't think he's going to make it tonight, but he had a couple suggestions of things for us to talk about tonight. So we may or may not get around to that. But really, I've got my discount tackle package for the month of January that I want to unbox with you guys and show to you. So thought I would hop on. Will probably be about an hour or so if I had to guess, but we shall see depending on how the conversation goes. I do have an early morning tomorrow heading up to the mountains with my family. Going to do a little bit of skiing tomorrow and Sunday. And my 6-year-old has a ski lesson on Sunday. So pretty exciting stuff. What's up, Daniel, Matthew, my moderators first in here tonight? How are you guys doing? Cheers. Happy Friday night to you. I don't think anybody else was live streaming tonight. So, yeah, hope everybody is doing well. I will just open this up by showing you the updates on my my homemade crankbaits. Okay, got the bill cut out and put on this thing. This is like a June bug type of color. It's got some color shift to it, like a purple going to like an iridescent blue or green. I've painted on some kind of old school crankbait style eyes, yellow and black. And yeah, this is a flat sided crankbait. It's relatively large. Got a weight right in the center of the belly. You can see where I drilled out and put that guy right there. And then I'm kind of doing the same thing with this one, which I am just now starting to work on. This is a little bit thinner. And I don't really know why it turned out that way. You can see that this bait is quite a bit thinner, but it's the same profile, same stencil that I used really. But when you consider the fact that I'm doing this all by hand, and including sanding it down, you end up with some inconsistencies. So same size bait roughly, but this guy I'm just starting to paint silver. I have not epoxied the lip in there yet. So this lip will be just a little bit smaller than the other one. I'll show you side by side real quick, kind of what the difference is between these two. This one is a little bit more rounded and a little bit more narrow. So it will have a slightly different action to it, probably a little bit tighter and not quite as good deflection properties. So anyway, yeah, just working on these homemade crankbaits. They're out of balsa wood, and I'm using nail polish and like Sharpie and other brand paint pens to paint these up. So yeah, maybe sometime I'll show you guys what I'm using, or show you on video kind of how I do it. But this is the first time I've ever made my own bait. So not the worst turnout, if we're being honest, but we'll certainly get better over time. So what's up, Bruce Nichols? How you doing tonight? Yeah, Matt, I totally hear you. Getting fishing withdrawals. Absolutely. As Ron would say, might as well face it, we're addicted to lures, but that goes for fishing as a whole as well, not just lures. So, all right. Daniel says, where did you get the metal hardware that you're putting on them? I got those just from the hardware store. These are the smallest size screw eyes that you can get. from the hardware store. So these are like a half-inch size, and yeah, you'd have to go specialty and buy online if you want other stuff. Same with the bill material. Neither were exactly what I wanted, but both kind of work for now. So this is a 2 millimeter thick Lexan polycarbonate that I'm using for the bill. I would prefer like a circuit board, uh, more fiberglass type of material, and I would prefer slightly smaller screw eyes. But for this size of bait, it will work just fine. It's just as I start to make baits that are a little bit smaller, I will want to go smaller than that. So I am already loading my cart up at Jan's Netcraft, I believe it's called, um, where I will probably buy a bunch of pre-cut lips as well as some smaller screw eyes and things like that. But you can buy these screw eyes. They come really large, and all the way down to this small half-inch size. So they are a closed eye with a screw. So I am just drilling a. I'm using a 1/16 ounce drill bit and drilling in some 3/8 of an inch, maybe upwards of half of an inch, and then manually screwing that in, and then using some super glue to seal that. So with these balsa baits, I am hand carving them after just tracing out the basic shape, and then I'm sanding them down before I use a super glue to seal the wood, and then throwing on some paint, whether it's nail polish or like an oil or water based paint pen to start the process there. And I'm doing anywhere from 3 to 5 coats of paint on these guys, and then using epoxy to put that lip in, and ultimately I will use like a polyurethane to use as the top coat on these baits, but we will see. So Bruce says, um, who pop who tested positive for the vid? Bruce, your pops? My popped positive. Who are you saying? I appreciate the compliment, Matt. Yeah, it's not too bad for my first time, um, but I will get more detailed as I go. Start carving on, gill patterns and things like that on the side, so that it's not just raw paint. And I'm going to start splattering paint and trying to fade colors, or at least do multiple colors in a pattern. I've actually added some flake to the side of this, which you can't see in this light, but in the sun, it pops like crazy. Um, I've got multiple colors of nail polish on this one. So this is a color shifting nail polish color, and then over the top of it, I've put like a clear with a bunch of sparkle in it. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see that come through or not, but anyway. Oh, Bruce, your niece tested positive. That's horrible, man. My sister-in-law, my brother's wife, tested positive just 3 days ago. So my brother ran up the mountains and is up there with his daughter, or my niece, and so I'll see them, but not be on. I'll be in the other side of the duplex. My brother's staying on my parents' side. I'm going to stay on the guest side this weekend. So, yeah, it's crazy how this variant of the virus has been going around like crazy since the holidays. But as of yesterday, or just the last couple days, it is starting to wane here in Colorado at the very least. I don't know about everywhere else, but yeah, it's been nuts, man. Simon, you made it. You sure did, man. How you doing tonight? Bruce says, Tyler, do you upgrade drag washer to carbon? Is it still a thing? Um, I do not, but it might still be a thing. I don't really upgrade much on my reels at all. Um, I know that a lot of people do, but I don't. Bruce says Jans has some killer pricing on house brand soft baits. The Neds look good. Yeah, I did not look at anything like that house brand soft baits. I might take a peek before I end up pulling the trigger, but we'll have to see about that. I'm literally just looking at um, lure making materials. So let me tell you what's in my cart real quick. I'll oh, maybe it's not even Jan's Netcraft. I think it's Lure Parts Online where I've really been loading my cart. At the moment, I've got some stencil patterns, some plug belly weight inserts, so that instead of drilling this hole right below the screw eye on the belly, I can actually just plug that, and it will be an eye or a hook eye attached to a weight. So pretty cool. I'm getting those in a 5 gram size. I've got a whole bunch of screw eyes and even some screw eye anchors. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to use those or not, but might end up securing them just a little bit better. Although it makes me nervous about it ruining the integrity of the wood that I'm using. I'm also ordering some fiberboard sheets so that I can cut out my own circuit board lips, and then some pre-cut Lexan lure lips in like a square bill, some circuit board lips in a couple different sizes and shapes, some lead BBs, some crankbait ballast balls, and yeah, even a few just blanks made from balsa. So pre-carved and sanded balsa blanks. Now they cost like $4 a pop, so definitely not cheap, but that might be worth my while to at least see how they look, how they are. They don't come with screw eyes or weight in them at all. They're just raw balsa wood blanks. So yeah, Lure Parts Online is kind of where I'm probably going to pull the trigger on some stuff. So Riley Belden in the house. What is up? Family's doing good. Thank you very much. Yeah. My wife is working tonight. We are going to go pick her up from work tomorrow morning and drive straight up to the mountains. So, yeah, everything's going smoothly. We've been dodging COVID. There's been multiple exposures in my daughter's classroom over the last 2 weeks. And yeah, kind of a scary thing. A bunch of people that we know have gotten it in the last 2 to 3 weeks. And it seems just kind of inevitable and only a matter of time until we all do. But, you know, I'm not going to go down the road of talking about the vaccine and everything right now. But anyway, um, yeah, I've got a couple more of the blanks that I've carved and sanded a little bit here that I will work from. You know, this one is like the ones that I've showed you, that is just a one piece where I will drill 3 holes, one in the nose, one in the belly, one in the tail to put those screw eyes, and then I will drill a hole just behind that screw eye for the weight. And then with these two guys, these are half the size, so these are skinny. And what I will do is ensure that these are exactly the same size. They're not perfect right now, as you can see. They're just a little bit off. But what I will do is I've got some, I think, 18 gauge wire that I have bent. And so it will run through. It's going to have the eye in the back, run, drop down, have the eye in the belly, come up, and then come down and have the eye in the front. And I will just press these together and create an indentation, maybe even add a weight to that, drill out a little bit of a hole here, and then glue and press them together before then I sand and seal the bait. So just a little bit of a different way of creating a wooden bait, but pretty cool. Thank you for the compliment, Riley. Yeah, I wouldn't say that it looks damn good, but it's not too shabby, right? So it still needs another uh perhaps a light coat of paint, maybe a little extra sparkle, and then that polyurethane top coat to it. So thank you. Oh, the blue and the silver. Okay. Okay. So you like both of them. Yeah, the silver I'm going to play around with a little bit more. It's not just going to be a straight silver. Okay. But I haven't fully decided what I'm going to do with it. I just laid down that first coat and a half of silver paint today. That was a fresh lure last night. I drilled the holes and carved out the slot for this lip and cut out and sanded the lip itself and made sure that was all just right. So Abe in the house. How you doing, man? Will the amount of epoxy affect the bait? What exactly do you mean by that? Um, the amount of epoxy where I'm sealing the lip in, or if I were to use epoxy instead of polyurethane to as a top coat on the bait. The amount will affect the weight, and it depends on the type of epoxy that you use. If you're using epoxy as a top coat, um, that can affect durability. So you do have to be a little bit careful about that. I don't know that you can manipulate the action with the epoxy or the polyurethane that you're using to seal the bait, but rather it's going to be the lip and it's going to be the shape of the bait itself. So the fact that this is a thin bait with a narrow and rounded lip is what's going to cause the action more than anything. If this was to be a fatter round bait with a square lip, you'll get a much wider action and one that deflects quite a bit better. So this is going to run a little bit tighter and be better in open water. But the weight is also going to play a big role. So Matt says, I think circuit board is easier to mess with. Yeah, probably a little bit easier, but I haven't had access to any here locally. I haven't been able to find any in hardware stores or otherwise. So I'm gonna have to buy that online, which is why I'm mostly loading up that cart. It's the circuit board lips and the circuit board sheets that caused me to make the decision to purchase online in the first place. So Matt says, I'd like to see you make one with a carbon fiber lip. That would be dope. For sure, man. Yeah, I hope so too, Riley. I haven't been exposed to my sister-in-law, and so I'm not worried about getting it. But of course, with my daughter being in school and her classmates getting it, um, you know, you never know. Could happen at any time. Matt says a white belly with a black lateral line and a shad dot would be sick on the silver. Yeah, great suggestions. I am definitely going to do a shad dot, but I'm deciding what to do with the belly and the back, whether or not to splatter some paint on this guy or not. But we will see about that. All right, guys. I don't think I have anything else that I want to show you aside from the whole reason for this video. We're about 20 minutes in, and without any further ado, I'm going to open and unbox this month's package from Discount Tackle. I may or may not have told you guys about a couple of things that are in here. Man, this is sealed really well. Super sticky. And I don't even fully remember what I got in here. I think I told you last week that that a bunch of this was kind of impulse stuff. So we shall see I think it's kind of a random grab bag, if I'm not mistaken. And this was one of those times where I literally spent the bare minimum to get free shipping. So here's a little preview of what I picked up. And as you can see, I spent $60 and change. You have to spend $59 to get free shipping from Discount Tackle. Shameless plug. Here is Discount Tackle. Cool little new style sticker. Nice little background there. Camo colors. And yeah, not mad about it. So I'm going to just do soft plastics first. And then jigs and then hard baits. So I guess we'll start small and then go bigger. But I did pick up a couple of like panfish or ice fishing or even trout style baits. And first is this crappie bait, Bobby Garland, and this is their baby shad. So nothing crazy special about this bait, but it was cheap. And you know, I spent $2.88 on this pack of baits. They come really well packaged so that these tails are not twisted up. This color though is called Eclipse, and it's a beauty. So as you can see, this is just like a fluke style bait, but we've got like an iridescent blue with more of a black back. And this is just a straight baby baitfish imitation where I will throw this on something of the likes of like a trout magnet or something like that. Very small hook, anything from as small as like maybe ballpark size 4 or 6 hook on there. Could even go smaller, but really I'm going to throw this on a rig that is essentially just a float and fly. I'll throw this on a jig head under a float. And I'm pretty sure this thing comes with very little salt content in it and should stay pretty horizontal in the water column. So we will see how that goes. But that's actually a bait that I've never tried as any of those Bobby Garland baits. So I don't know. Do you guys have any experience with those baits or what? Matt says he's got a bunch of those for crappie fishing. They work well, and for perch too. Okay. Well, next up is a bait by Mule Fishing. I've talked about them before, but this is their newer horsefly. And this was a bait that I've mentioned before, but not gotten my hands on until just now. The one that I've been playing with the most over the last year has been their Donkey Tail Junior. They make a donkey tail, which is a paddle tail swim bait, and the standard donkey tail is a 2.8 inch, and the donkey tail junior is a 1.6. So, as I've told you guys before, the donkey tail junior is so small, it's got an awesome action on really a trout magnet jig head and rigged like a fly, but it's got a kick to it on a little bit more of a quick retrieve. And these baits are made from a stretchy elastomer style material, which is really cool. But now we've got a different profile in this horsefly. Gosh, that thing just wants to dance. Trying to keep this as still as possible for you guys. As you can see, it's got some appendages up top. I think it's got 3 legs coming off of each side. Now, I've fiddled with them at this point. But 3 legs up top on each side, and then that ribbed body and these little tails with balls on them. So really cool profile bait here. 1.6 inches. No, this is 1.3. So really small guy. Would be a great ice fishing bait as well. And, you know, speaking of ice fishing, I have been interested in trying one or two of the 13 fishing ice fishing baits. So you may or may not see those coming up, but this color is called Ranch Hand. So obviously just like a natural brown. And these guys come 10 to a pack and will last a really long time. So I'm happy about that. Wanted to see what that profile looked like. And now that I've got it in my hands, I'm happy about it. All right. Speak of the freaking devil. I did not remember picking these up, but ba-boom. Here are the 13 ice fishing baits. This is called the Bernie. And if I'm not mistaken, this might be their largest ice fishing bait. These are all like really, really small baits. As you can see, the size of this package is small in relation to my hand even. So let me try and pull one of these out. I think these have a scent on them, actually. They do. And I would imagine that it works, but I don't know how to put my finger on what that scent is, really. Wow. Okay, this is a cool profile. Now, how do I show you? It's so freaking small. So I'm gonna have to show you piece by piece. These appendages are wanting to stick together, so it's kind of hard to see. But on bottom, there are two little guys that come off uh, separate from the tail, and there's a whole bunch of legs, three on each side, and then three bigger ones on each side, and then it's got this similar mayfly type of head. So good looking bait for sure. And check, oh no, not super stretchy, but they do call this super durable. I forget what they call it. I thought this was supposed to be made out of, so they say it's donkey sauce infused. It's got HD detail and maximum buoyancy. So this thing is meant for ice fishing, but I think we'll make an awesome pan fishing bait. So all three of those baits that I just showed you are micro size and not really made for bass fishing per se. Of course, you could catch bass on them if you're fishing for other fish or multiple species at the same time, but I will mostly use those for bluegill, crappie, and trout more than anything. So yeah, we shall see. Bruce says Bobby Garland crappie lures are big down here. Yeah, well, they're well stocked here as well, but I've never tried them. I don't usually go out just targeting crappie. So Daniel says that's the one I was thinking was a craw that night on the stream. Oh, okay, that horsefly by mule fishing. Is that what you're talking about? And Matt says, Tyler, have you ever used those Berkeley mice tails for trout and had any success? Yes, I have. Those mice tails are essentially like an egg with a tail on the end, just a straight tail worm attached to a round ball, and those do work pretty well. I got nothing against them, quite honestly. They don't have good buoyancy, so that's the only real issue with them. I've had decent success on them. Next up, you guys know that I seem to have an addiction to Berkeley Max scent as of late. In the last month or two, I've been getting them left and right. But this guy right here is a bait that I have not had or tried ever. And this is the Max Scent General. So it's their Senko style bait. focus for us. I apologize. So the General, and as you can see, this is a 4-inch size in green pumpkin. So 4-inch is quite a finesse Senko style bait. And I will primarily wacky rig on a drop shot with this thing. I will sometimes throw this on just a weightless wacky rig, um, but around smallmouth primarily. So I may or may not dye the tip of the tail in some chartreuse, but the General is a bait that I have not tried other than in the original power bait scent, not the max scent. So the General has a fast fall compared to other Senko style baits. And, I used to think that the Yamamoto Senko had a pretty fast fall relative to other things. The one thing that kind of replicates it pretty close is the Bass Pro Shop Stiko, and that's always been one of my favorite alternatives to a Yamamoto Senko because it has a similar salt content, good action, a similar fall rate, but it's way cheaper. You get a ton in a pack, and I think they even cost less when you buy 20 in a pack compared to getting like 8 in a pack for Yamamoto's. So anyway, the Generals are not super cheap, but these guys have 10 in a pack and they're $7. So um, they're about the same price as a Senko, but you get that max scent, which to me is a huge deal. And you get that faster fall rate. It's even more dense than a Senko is. So I'll be curious to give that a whirl this year on either a wacky rig or a Nico rig primarily. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. Bruce says, I kept crappie without trying the TRD craw, but the cream beetle spin is most people's go-to. Interesting. Yeah, beetle spin is tried and true, old school, and it works, man. I used to throw it a lot and just have kind of gotten away from it for whatever reason. So don't have a lot more in here, but I've got 2 of the Bass Patrol football jigs. I've talked about these before. I'm pretty sure Matt talked about them or mentioned them in a comment on like my last live stream. What's cool about these guys is they're super affordable. They come with mustad hooks on them. They've got good weed guards and they come with living rubber on them. So these are a round rubber, and I like these jigs a lot. They're arguably my go-to football jig. Now, I do already have some of these. In fact, I got one sitting right here. This is just a little bit heavier of a weight. But as you can see, what's cool about these guys is they've got a recessed line tie built into that jig head. It's got a thick weed guard, but it's not too firm. And it's pre-cut just perfectly. It's got a sticky sharp hook on it that is a nice medium wire. And I forget the bait keeper on this. This is a lead bait keeper. So not my favorite bait keeper, but it's also not a bad one per se. But the real all-star with when it comes to this jig is the skirting material. This is a living rubber that just pulses in the water, is fantastic. So big fan of these jigs. Guess what they go for? $2.79 a pop. So I picked up 2 more of them. I already have a handful or more of those jigs. And I decided to get a couple in the 1/4 ounce size, which has an even smaller hook on it. I believe this is like a 2/0 hook. You can just see that that's a smaller hook on it. So I believe the old one is like a 3/8 ounce. comes with a 3/0, and then the half ounce goes to 4/0, and the, I don't know if it's 5/8 or if it's 3/4, goes up to a 5/0. So decided to get two of these small kind of finesse football jigs in a 1/4 ounce 2/0 hook. This one is just a straight black rubber with a little bit of black and blue silicone on top. So pretty happy about that guy. And then I did actually get one in the exact same color that I just showed you guys a minute ago. This is that brown and purple. Oh no, I guess what I showed you is just, oh no, this is brown and purple. Yeah, I was right. So this has a green pumpkin painted head, if I'm not mistaken, and brown with a little bit of purple in it. So $2.79 a pop on these jigs. Picked up two of them. Can't help it. Can't beat it. And yeah, not mad about it. Abe says, does Berkeley not sell Maxent as attractant like in a bottle or jar? No, not yet. I would hope that they will do that eventually, but they have not gotten around to doing that. And I assume it's just because they can make a lot more money by selling their own plastics that are with that scent on them. And so, of course, they do it with Power Bait, they do it with Gulp, but they don't do it with Maxent just yet. So I would assume eventually they will. But since they're making so much money off of Maxent baits at this point in time, we'll have to wait for that. Bruce says, out of 140 plus bags of soft baits, I paid retail for one bag of Yum. Everything else I got in packaged deals close to Fort Bragg. People dump stuff off cheap. Interesting. So you've only paid full retail for a pack of Yum. Everything else has been discounted. That's pretty wild, man. I've paid full retail for a lot, but that's the main reason that I work with Discount Tackle as opposed to other tackle shops or bait makers in particular, is that you can buy this stuff discounted a lot of the time. So of course, not all of these things are discounted, but it all kind of works itself out. Sometimes I go out of my way to only buy things that are discounted, and sometimes, like tonight, I get some stuff that's discounted, some stuff that's not. So you get a little bit of a mix there. Next up, another jig, and this is the Evergreen Grass Ripper Swim Jig. Decided to get a couple of shad patterns, and I showed you guys this bait recently. I've got it in the 3/8 ounce size, in a bluegill color, in a fire craw color, and in a black and blue. And I think this is a super high quality swim jig. Really well made. Vertical line tie, good weed guard. This thing needs to be trimmed down just a little bit, but then it's got that really solid Gamakatsu hook and a double wire bait keeper, just like you see on the Jackhammer chatterbait. It's got same skirt colors, hand tied on there. Just fantastic. But I decided to pick up a couple in the 1/4 ounce size, one in the chartreuse and white. They call it chartreuse shad. Actually, I'm going to pull that one out for you. And the other one is their spot remover color. You guys are probably familiar with this color. It is silvery. It's got that clear weed guard on it, and it's got just some shimmer on there. It is very transparent in nature, but this chartreuse shad, beautiful. Now, I got these in a 1/4 ounce because I, generally speaking, like to fish a swim jig high in the water column. Of course, there are situations where you want to fish a swim jig through grass and rip it out, but I like to fish this like a stealthy spinner bait. Of course, no flash, but high in the water column where I can see this thing coming back to me. Now, I really wish I had those Kitech saltwater swim baits on me right now so that I could show you. But let me try and get up close and let you see the details of this guy. You're not going to be able to see. There is some really cool color shifting paint on the head of this bait and in the skirt. So again, you get that clear weed guard and you get a fairly transparent shad pattern here with some chartreuse and a little bit of blue. That is lovely. So I believe it has the same size hook on it, just obviously a smaller head since this thing is lead weight, 3/8, 1/4. I will probably trim this skirt just ever so slightly on these guys, but picked up 2 of those and they still were $6.37. So I think you only save like 10% on each of those guys. Then here's a very random bait that I picked up this month. Let me catch up real quick on these comments. I'm sorry. Yeah, Matt's right. The closest thing you can get to Maxent in a bottle or jar is Gulp, and you can get it in those tubs that the baits come in, or you can get it in the spray version. Plenty of people use Gulp, and it works really well. Only thing is, I think it will dry out your soft plastics if I'm not mistaken. Megaforce 728, how you doing, man? It's 0 degrees in Pennsylvania, bro. Can I borrow some ice fishing equipment? LOL. Yeah, honestly, it's cold here too. It snowed today. I'm in Colorado, but yeah, I have been thinking about ice fishing, but instead I just run up to the mountains and go skiing, honestly. So I'm going skiing tomorrow and Sunday, headed up with the family to the mountains tomorrow morning early. So I probably won't be on too much longer. We're 42 minutes in. I've got 2 more baits to show you, and then we can hang out for a little while longer before I dip out of here. But yeah, I feel you. It's that time of year where it ought to be cold. Pennsylvania can certainly get cold. So, does your water ever freeze over? Are you able to ever do any ice fishing? Or, like the rest of us, are you pretty much just off from November until March, not really doing any fishing? We were all talking earlier about how we've got some fishing withdrawals going on. It is that time of year where we're just itching. We're dreaming. We're admiring baits. We're organizing. We're thinking about next year. So, Daniel, was it you that was asking about some reels? I actually pulled 3 of them aside and took a couple pictures, but it was in low light, not great um, light for you to be able to see them. And I have them up in my office. If you want me to go grab them, I could show you on stream, or I can just send you those pictures after the stream. Um, 2 of them are right-handed actually, and one is a lefty. I only have 2 right-handed reels, and I've used them. I've used one once, and the other I haven't used at all. And then the other is a lefty that has like no use. All of these reels are in mint condition and are good ones. So I think you'll be interested. But of course, we've got to negotiate pricing, talk about whether or not you're interested in them. But yeah, guys, let me know if you're ever interested in buying or trading gear. I've got a fair amount and can always afford to get rid of some. Daniel says I'm pretty sure I can reel either side. Well, then that opens up the possibilities to me potentially offering you 1 or 2 other types of reels. So, oh goodness. All right, so Abe is going to order some gulp and give it a try. Trying to beat a .61 PB bass. Well, I think you'll beat that this year, man. I swear some of those, well, maybe you only caught a handful of bass this fall, but it looked like one or two of those were a pound. So maybe not. Daniel, you're making me laugh. The price of these living rubber jigs is a lot better than Randy's $10 living rubber jig. Yeah, we don't need to go into a lot about that, but pretty crazy that Randy Blockett was trying to defend a $10 jig this past week in saying that it's made in the US and that it's hand tied. I, there's nothing like that on the market. No jig costs $10. I get what he's saying that like some jigs are lesser quality that you might get for $4 or $5, but I'm telling you, this $3 jig is fantastic quality between uh, the finish, the paint, the design, the skirting material, and the hook are all fantastic, and it's $3 full retail. You're not spending any more than $4 for a 3/4 ounce jig, and so I don't know what Randy was thinking or talking about, but pretty crazy. Bruce says, I watch you and have a good amount of other channels. You always go in depth and leave me wanting more. I've slowly been sorting stuff and dumping what I don't. And here is the dog wanting to go out. LOL. That is hilarious. The dog always wants to go out. Is it my voice? What is it about your dog always needing to go out when I'm streaming? And man, I should have brought my bourbon down here because I am about to finish this bad boy off. Megaforce, it's frozen now. Okay. Interesting. Matt says you have those watertight containers. Um, and get juice bottles. It looks like a little refill bottle. Uh, Dump whole thing in container. Dump the whole thing in the container and just put baits in there. Let them soak, and they get bigger from the soaking in the scent. Interesting. Yeah, Matt says you can get a depths rubber jig for cheaper than what Randy was trying to sell. And Randy was dogging on like outsourced Chinese cheap crap baits. Um, Japanese stuff is always going to be um, more detail oriented and generally speaking higher quality than what you'd get that's American made or otherwise. And yeah, Depths is notorious for making really nice and really expensive baits. And you can't even spend $10 on a Depths rubber jig. Crazy. Bruce is already back. She has to go out anytime anyone does a live, no matter who or what time it is. That's funny. All right, so this is a one-off bait. I don't have this bait in my arsenal. They only had one color in stock at Discount Tackle, but I was curious. I don't know why. I guess maybe I had other things already loaded in my cart and was trying to get to that $60 mark for free shipping. But um, this is the Rapala DT Fat in the 3, I believe it is. So, yeah, this is a 3-foot diver, 2.5-inch, half-ounce bait. So, I do not have any of the DT Fats or the DT Flats for that matter. But wow, this is a fat bait. Look at that thing. Have any of you guys ever thrown the DT Fat? So obviously DT stands for dives 2. just like the original DT series, which is kind of a semi-flat sided bait, but um, these are balsa baits, balsa wood crankbaits made by Rapala, and they are affordable. So I don't know how much cheaper this was than what you would ordinarily pay full retail, but since it was in stock at Discount Tackle and I was curious about this bait, I decided to pick one up. This was $7.82. So, um, not cheap, but not expensive at the same time. This color pattern, I believe, is called Penguin. Um, it's a beauty. Nice little shad pattern that is black with some sparkle on top, fades to like a silver, and then like a pearl white with that orange throat. So, pretty simple color pattern. It's got that square bill that is steep. So this guy dives 3 foot. I believe they also make a DT1, which is pretty much just a wake bait. But I was curious about this 3 foot diver because essentially then it's like a shallow diving square bill. Um, and it's a fat body, but made of balsa. So it's going to have great deflection, great buoyancy, and it's going to dive just deep enough to make good contact with riprap, with wood in shallow water. So this is a bait that I intend to put to use this upcoming season and have never tried before. So little bit bigger body than well, I guess just a fatter body, but in length it's probably the same size as like a DT6. So um, I could pull out my DTs. You know, we don't need to go all the way down that rabbit hole, but since we're talking about it, let's just see how it compares side by side. I don't know if I have any of the Penguin color DT6s, but let me just pull out another color of the DT6. So lengthwise, pretty close. Profile-wise, fairly close. But when you look at the width, I mean, crazy. The DT6 is not a flat bait. This is a standard or semi-flat crankbait, but the DT Fat is insanely fat. I didn't quite realize that until just now. So the DT series of baits has that round lip on it, and the DT Fat is a square bill. So I'm definitely curious about that and interested to give this a shot. Just gonna see if it fits right in here with my DT baits. It's out of place sitting in with my DT 10s, but that's kind of just where I had room at the moment. So interesting. I had no idea about that bait, had never seen it in person, but had heard decent things about the DT Fat and the DT Flat series. So for less than $8, I decided to give it a shot, you know. Matt says, so you never tried the fat wrap from Rapala? I haven't, but I inherited an old fat wrap from my dad, but it's a plastic injected bait. It is not a wood bait. It's got a rattle in it, and I don't know if that's standard for all the fat wraps or what, but I may or may not run upstairs in a second to get more bourbon, to get those 3 reels to show Daniel, and to grab that fat wrap because I know exactly where it is and I can show you. Bruce says that Rapala looks a lot like the ones I used in the 90s. Probably the fat wrap is the one that you're thinking about. So, guys, hang tight. There's 14 people in here. I'm going to run, grab those 3 things. I will be right back, and we will hang out for like another 20 minutes. I've got one more bait in this unboxing to show you, and here is your preview I don't know if you saw that, but I'll be right back. Hang tight. I'm coming back. I'm back. Got a handful of stuff. Hope you guys are hanging tight, chilling. Still got 15 people in here. That's what's up. All right. Couple things I want to show you before I show you this last bait. One is that fat wrap. This is circa mid 80s. And this is like in mint condition, just was not in the box. This was in my dad's tackle box. I don't even know if he threw it. It's funny, he got this from a client of his, company called Mammoth. They've got their emblem printed on the side of this bait. I don't even know if my dad's company still works with Mammoth, but this guy is, it just says Rapala Fat Wrap, and it says Finland. Oh, it would be cool if I could get this to focus for you, but that's going to be really tough. Rapala, Ireland, and then on the bottom of the lip it says Fat Wrap. You can kind of see that. So Ireland is where these baits were made back in the day, and this is a cool little chrome blueback. You can hear that rattle, and you can see that it's made from plastic. So yeah, I don't know if they still make them in plastic or not, but you tell me, Matt. Matt says, Tyler, the fat wrap is balsa. If yours is made of plastic, that would be weird or rare because I've never heard of a plastic one. Well, I just showed you. And this is all original stuff on it. These split rings are like a copper material. These hooks are definitely bronze or copper. And I'm not lying. I thought you were just able to see that. It says fat wrap right there. See that? Rapala, Ireland, fat wrap. So maybe it has to do with the fact that these ones were made in Ireland as opposed to wherever else they make them these days. But yeah, very vintage lure that obviously my dad didn't throw very much. It looks like kind of a medium to deeper diver. Whether or not it's rare, it's not like I'm trying to flip it or anything. It's not in its packaging. It's got a company's name printed on it, and it's more just got sentimental value than anything. So, Adam Odin in the house. You are late to the game, but no big deal. I've just poured a fresh one, and it's neat. No ice on this one, and yet it's still super smooth. Guys, I've talked about this bourbon before, but this is the Evan Williams bottled in bond. It is their 100 proof version. Evan Williams makes okay bourbon, but they're bottled in bond. They make a couple of bourbons that are good, and their bottled in bond is 100 proof. And I don't know why I wanted to say aged 9 years. I don't think it says on the bottle. It says aged at least 4 years. Who knows? Um, but it's 100 proof, and it's a bold but smooth drinker. So I'm happy about it, and it's cheap. Okay, it's like 17, 18 bucks, and one of the best values that you can get out of a standard size 750 milliliter bottle of bourbon. So I do highly recommend Evan Williams bottled in bond. It's been one of my go-to for the last 6 or 9 months. Adam, you're camping right now with your son's scout troop. Interesting. Well, I hope I'm not being too loud, or I hope you've got headphones on, man. I don't want to disturb the Boy Scouts trip. But guys, check this out. This is the nail polish that I used on this crankbait. All right. So here, one more look at it. You can see this color shift from like a purple to a blue to almost like a green. But I used this nail polish, which is a Sally Hansen, I believe. They're slightly more expensive Miracle Gel, and this is a cool color called Hypnotical. So 573 is the color number, and then this is what I topped it off with. So you can see this is a mostly clear nail polish, but with a lot of blue and purple flake in there. And this is their Insta Dry. I'm not as much of a fan of it because it's very hard to apply without smearing. So you have to use big globs and quickly paint it, and then leave it. So that can factor in. But this color here is called Moonstone. 020. So this combination is what I used on that flat-sided crankbait. I may or may not fiddle around with it. What I did was use these Sharpie pens, and these are a water-based paint pen. Come on, camera, stop looking at my face. Oh, had it there. Water-based paint pen made by Sharpie. So this does have a fine tip, and it's a paint pen. I used that for the eyes in both the yellow and black colors. And then on this bait, which you see is just a straight silver for now as that base coat, I'm using this type of pen, and this is a little bit different. This is called Deco Color. It's a premium prime. This is an oil-based pen, so Little bit different there, and it's got a wider tip on it. So better for covering more material, more surface, if you will. But of course, you could turn this over from the wide side to the tip and probably do a little bit more fine detail if you needed to. So that that oil I can smell just right when I take the cap off. It's a really strong. It smells like a spray paint, whereas this Sharpie pen, being water based, does not smell. You know, it's not going to be bad for your health if you're inhaling too much of these fumes. So anyway, these are just a little bit of a glimpse into what I'm using to mock up these crankbaits right now. And yeah, here's also a tiny little sheet of balsa wood that I've got and a new stencil that I just traced today. I don't know necessarily how I feel about that shape. I might adjust it just a little bit, but the plan with this guy is to do what I showed you with these, in that I will bend some of that like 18 gauge wire and press it in between the two sheets and squeeze them together, create that indentation, kind of not quite dig it out, but press it in so that these two pieces can go together flush, and maybe add a little bit of weight to the center before I put these together so that then I don't need to drill additional holes. I will glue them together, sand, and then seal the bait. And that way, then I don't have to drill holes and put the screw eyes in as hook hangers. So there you go. Just a little bit of hint or detail into what I've been doing with that stuff. So I'm considering using a red version to paint some gills on the middle of this bait. I almost certainly will on this guy, as well as a shad dot. Just can't decide what to do with the back and the belly, and potentially some details. But as I get into doing more of these baits, what I will do before sealing the wood is carving details into the side of the bait, gill plates and things like that, um, before actually going further in the process. So Daniel says, I'll have to try the bottled in bond. Um, I've had the regular Evan Williams and the honey. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of either of those, if we're being honest. But the 100 proof is quite a step up for not that much more in money. That makes a huge difference. Bruce, that's a hilarious comment. But no, I actually bought these nail polishes for this purpose. My wife is not crazy enough to use colors like these on her own nails. She uses classy colors like a muted pink or red or um, very like pretty colors, not flashy, crazy things that like my daughters might be into these colors, and maybe I'll go ahead and lend them my lure painting nail polish to paint their nails, but we'll see about that. Matt says Insta Dry is clumpy too. Yeah, it can be, but I just got these recently, so I haven't had that problem too much yet. I guess as I'm pouring it is a little bit thicker. The viscosity is different with this guy, so yeah, I'm sure that plays a role. Megaforce, no, you're not the only one who uses nail polish and Sharpie pens. Although, like I showed you, these Sharpie pens are not standard pens, okay? Um, These are water-based paint pens and not regular Sharpies. So I do have regular Sharpies in multiple. Uh, I've got fine ones and like super fine points, but they don't write very well, especially on nail polish or over the top of anything else. Um, it's very hard to get them to look good on anything that's not like a soft plastic. So, yeah, you're not alone, man. We're all in this together. Daniel says, I have an idea for eyes if I try making my own lures. Fiber optic gun slash bow sight plastic and putting it all the way through the bait would make the eye glow like crazy in low light. Wow, that's an interesting concept. Why not cut it thin though and put it on the outsides of each as opposed to all the way through the bait? Just curious about that. Although it does make me think about a live stream that I saw recently. I think it was a rewatch with Smallmouth Crush. Him and Epic Eric were talking about crankbaits, and Eric was talking about a crankbait that has a hole all the way through the center of the bait because it's got a special rattle or weight system in it that runs through the middle of the bait. Like they drilled the hole all the way through, put something in there, and then just sealed the outside instead of the entire thing. Um, so yeah, I don't know. You've got my mind going a little bit. Megaforce says, but my lady got mad, but thought it was cool afterwards. That's hilarious. Bruce says a friend's grandfather used to make balsa baits a long time ago. Used to glue layers together, print out a template, glue it on, and then use a scroll saw to cut all the layers at one time. Yeah, I've seen that kind of thing too, and I would not mind getting a freaking a bandsaw and um, a belt sander. Okay, because those two things could save you a lot of time compared to what I'm doing in using just an X-Acto knife and some sandpaper, ranging from anywhere from 100 to 320 in grit size. Um, to really shape these baits. It takes me longer to do so. Um, if I had a proper band saw, what I could do is just glue or put some like double-sided tape from my stencil or my template and put it right on the balsa and then just go right through and cut that thing out almost perfectly and then go onto the belt sander and just get it perfect to the shape of that template. And then boom, in a matter of a couple minutes, you've got it done as opposed to say, I don't know, 15 to 30 minutes to carve and sand a bait down properly. And sometimes it takes me longer, right? You never know, especially if I want it to look right. This one's not even tapered yet. Let's be honest. This is just the initial shape. And then what I do here is I make all these edges a little bit less steep than they are, make them a little bit more rounded. And then on the nose, this comes in a bit toward the middle so that this tapers down on the top of the bait. Same on the bottom. And then the tail tapers in to where it's like flat. So I don't know if you'll be able to see this. You can see a little bit of that shape there. You can kind of see it there. And then you can see that there. So it takes a little bit of extra work when you don't have the materials and you're doing it all by hand. But absolutely, Bruce. I wish I had the power tools. You know, it would cost me $400 on the cheap end to be able to buy those two machines, if we're being honest. And Matt says a quick coat paint marker from CS works well for adding small details to baits. Don't buy them from Bass Pro. Get them from Tackle Warehouse. Quick coat paint marker. I haven't looked into that. Yeah, Daniel, I knew what you were saying, eye to eye, to drill it all the way through the bait, um, because you'll get some added reflection and light shining all the way through the bait. But yeah, that's interesting. Kind of hard to wrap my head around, but I mean, I want to see it. Why don't you give it a try? Or send me something, because literally this is like a half-inch thick. Send me some pieces of what you're talking about, of that site, and I'll make it. Okay, because instead of just painting it on or drilling really small holes and using stick-on eyes or whatever, I would just drill a hole straight through the bait in order to use what you're talking about. That sounds really cool. Woodrow Rats does that for his eyes, says Matt. Interesting. Dave Jolly. Hey, Jackal Aragon. Yeah. No, I just picked these up from Tackle Warehouse like a week or two ago. This is a bait that nobody really talks about. A jointed crankbait with a very traditional crankbait body. This is a 4-foot diver. And yeah, kind of a rare bait, but was on super sale, and one that I kind of just had to see for myself, see what it's about, and give a try. So got one in purple chartreuse and one in Aurora black, and these are baits that I'm pretty excited to give a try, especially because of that sound it makes. Let me hold these hooks. Listen to that chatter. Got good hardware on it and everything. Matt, I did actually. I think it was Hobby Lobby. It might have been Michael's, but I'm pretty sure it was Hobby Lobby. Um, they sell like a $10 pack of balsa wood. It's not a great deal. I'm sure you could buy balsa for cheaper. This was just for me to mess around with. And you can look through what they have because it's like a random grab bag. It's a packaged, like, probably 10-inch by 10-inch set of different cuts of balsa wood. And some of them are as thick as like I don't know, half inch, 3/4 of an inch, and a lot of them are as thin or thinner than this. So that just got my mind going about what I could do with these in carving some that were solid pieces and carving some that were going to be two pieces. And it comes with a fair amount, but it's random. I mean, you literally have to look at the pack and see what you're getting. It's transparent the way that it's packaged, uh, but it's all random. So you got to look before you buy. All right. Megaforce says you need a scroll saw, good for small to big and more control over cutting than a bandsaw. Really? I had to look into a scroll saw. Thank you for the advice. I hadn't checked that out yet. Cherry or oak for the bottom half of the center for less hook rip outs. The center would be hardwood. The bottom half would be hardwood. Bottom half balsa on the top. Buy used machines, Facebook Marketplace. Interesting. Cool ideas. Thank you guys for the advice. I appreciate that. And yeah, Daniel, I have mentioned Hobby Lobby before, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, and that's a great place to look is where they have like boxcar, derby stuff and model trains. It's a great place to look for paint, for wood, for carving stuff. All of that is where you can find what you're looking for when it comes to lure making. So, yeah, airbrush is the only thing that I'm hesitant to get. Daniel says a scroll saw is good for shapes. Did you guys guess what this was? You probably just saw a good look at it right now. What is that? Give me a brand and the name of the bait. I'll give you one more look at it. Oh, no doubt about that, Matt. Sometimes you got to go to wood shops. You can sometimes find better balsa. No doubt about that. Matt, I thought I was quick with it, but no, you're quick with it. This is the G-Rat Pistol Pete. And maybe you just know because I showed it last week or because I showed it before I ran upstairs. But this is the Pistol Pete by G-Rat. This is their small version glide bait. And yeah, this guy's 5 1/4 inches and just 1.2 ounces in weight. So look in my hand just how small this bait is. I will show you just how steep this joint is too. Holy shnikes. Ron Holly, holy shnikes. This thing is like, what is that? 60 some degrees, 70 degrees. That's insane. No, 90, 120, 125. I don't even know what I'm talking about. But what a cool color scheme this is. This guy is called IU. So this is an IU pattern, which is mostly natural. It's got like a gold back to it, whole bunch of shine on the side, and like a silver belly. Whoa. I don't know if this was on purpose, but take a look at this. You tell me if that was meant to happen or if that was accidental in the manufacturing process. That this swivel is not all the way in the bait. What happened here, guys? Was that on purpose? I mean, I appreciate the fact that this bait is on swiveling hook hangers, but I don't know if it's meant to be protruding out of the bait. I only have the original Sneaky Pete. They have the Big Daddy called the Papa Pete. Oh. They have the middle size, which is the Sneaky Pete. Well, you guys can see that I changed out that front treble hook for a number 2 VMC bladed treble. This is their hybrid bladed treble. And then on back, I've got like a number 2. I don't know if that's an owner ST36 or if this is the stock hook that came on it, but I don't really care for the stock hooks that come on the standard Sneaky Pete. But the Sneaky Pete is a standard size glide bait. But as I just showed you, these things are known for having a legitimately steep joint. Not only that, which will make noise on its own. Ouch. But this bait has a knocker in it that comes standard as well. So that's pretty cool. Now let's compare to the baby little guy here. It's 1.2 ounces. Very steep joint. So that's going to make noise on its own. But, wow. This also has a rattle, but it's relatively high pitched. Now that swivel coming out of the back makes me a little bit nervous that if you hook up on this back hook and only the back hook, that might pull out of the bait. I don't know about that. I really don't know. Matt says it's not supposed to be bent that far back. It's supposed to stick out a little bit, but not be bent back. You mean it's supposed to be straight up? It looks like the cavity. Of course, my camera's not going to focus for you guys to be able to see through the bait. But it does look like this thing was supposed to be at an angle in terms of the internals there, as opposed to straight up. I don't know about that. You might know better than me, but the way that this blank is designed and where these weight balls are, the weight balls are here, and the swivel is at about a 45-degree angle, and it looks intentional. It just looks like maybe it didn't go in all the way. I don't know. Up front, it is literally at a 90. It is straight up and down, and for good reason. There's two weight balls in the front and one that is that rattle right behind it. But this one in the back looks like it's supposed to be at about a 45. So I don't know. Again, this is my first time owning this bait, so I can't tell you. This is a downsized version of the original Sneaky Pete. They also make the larger Pistol Pete. And let me compare this alongside, say, the other small glide bait that I picked up recently and have not had a chance to try because I picked it up recently and we're in the off season right now. But this is the Savage Gear Shine Glide in their small size. This is the 135. So let's compare these side by side. Here's what we get. The Savage Gear is just a little bit, oh, they're close in size. Savage Gear is shorter by just a hair, but it's taller. And the joint on this thing is not nearly as steep. Look at that. Oh, did I stick myself? Look at that. So the Pistol Pete is a lot steeper than the Shine Glide. Oh. The Shine Glide comes with hooks that are just a little bit smaller, maybe like a size 4 type of hook on them. But these are baits that have my attention, but aren't necessarily going to be a priority for me. I do still want to prioritize baits that are in the 6 and 7-inch range and pushing 8-inch as I move forward, and not necessarily make a point to go down. But I think there will be situations where a small glide bait is the way to go, as opposed to, say, a super finessey presentation like a drop shot or a Ned rig, or a baby Texas rig, something weightless. You know what I mean? So that's just me. So you guys are saying the small ones are supposed to be at that angle for some reason. And I wonder if it's just because how the bait tapers down and is smaller and smaller as the tail goes, right? So if you went straight up and down, you're almost reaching the top of the bait and you're going to compromise that entire tail section of the bait. So you do kind of have to go at an angle in order to keep that reinforced, but it's really weird the way that that swivel sticks out of the bait. Up in the front, this thing is pretty much flush. I mean, you can still see it coming out of the bait, which doesn't bother me, um, but it's essentially in the bait, and this back one is not. That's weird. So anyway, that is the last bait that I picked up in this month's unboxing from Discount Tackle, and that guy was on sale for $16.99. I don't know how much on sale that is because I want to ballpark that bait at like a $20 bait. It might even be a little cheaper. So I don't know how much I saved by spending $16.99 on it, but it was one that was in stock in that color and one that grabbed my attention. So I decided to pick it up. Just got the one, and literally all that you see there, those packs of soft plastics, a lot of which are multi-species, plus then the 4-inch Maxent General, which is great for smallmouth on a drop shot, wacky rig, Nico rig, and then those jigs, the Finesse football jigs from Bass Patrol, showing you guys just how awesome this living rubber is and how affordable the jigs are, to then stepping up to perhaps one of the best, newest swim jigs on the market in the Evergreen Grass Ripper. Got 2 more of those in the smaller 1/4 ounce size, and then some hard baits in the DT Fat and in the Pistol Pete. So, a little bit of a random grab bag in this month's Discount Tackle unboxing, but I'm not mad about it. You know, I'm happy about what I picked up. Of course, if you're addicted to lures like I am, technically anything's better than nothing, but always trying to look for things that either I haven't tried before or things that I have and know that I like and want to restock or get different sizes of for a specific reason. And say, for example, on these jigs, this guy, I mean, both of these are for shallow water, but this swim jig is to run in the very, very high upper portion of the water column and imitate a shad. This guy right here is to run on bottom, but in skinny water, where I know that there's rocks, and I'm not wanting to get hung up as much because a lighter jig will allow me to pop that out and also target smallmouth and other fish that will fully engulf the bait that only has a 2/0 hook on it, as opposed to something that is a 4 or 5/0 hook, like is kind of standard on most football jigs these days. So yeah, hope that all makes sense as to why I got what I got this month, but a little bit random. Discount Tackle hasn't gotten a lot of new stuff in as of late, but I still like to make the most out of what they've got at the moment. And yeah. So Daniel says it looks like that's the way that the Pistol Pete is made. And my guess is that it's because that tail is so thin, so narrow, if you will. Bruce says, I have to order cheap trebles and split rings sooner or later. I have a few lures that I need to replace hooks on so that I can sell them. and I have a few 1/4 ounce rattle traps that I need to get decent hooks for. Uh, well, do you have any questions for that? You say under 20. I figured it would RRP around 35. Um, okay. I mean, 1/4 ounce rattle traps are going to need a very small hook, like a size 8 or maybe as large as a size 6, depending on the hook that you're using. But obviously, a standard crankbait or an other lure that weighs anywhere from 3/8 to 3/4 of an ounce is going to need a larger treble hook than a 1/4 ounce rattle trap would. So, um, yeah, what are you looking for? RRP. I was talking about the Pistol Pete. Okay. You were talking about the fact that you thought that this guy would retail around 35. Yeah, no, the standard size um, Sneaky Pete is about $35 minus 20%. You can get it like 27 bucks on discount tackle, but I think this guy retails at, let's say it's 21 dollars minus 4 bucks, then you're talking $17. I paid 16.99, so there you go. You guys would have to tell me what it shows on Tackle Warehouse as the retail price, but yeah, very good looking bait. And I know that these G-Rat baits are well made. So I have confidence in it before even tying it on. I'll tell you that the Shine Glide is a little bit tighter of an action, but still pretty smooth. Just one that I wouldn't fish on a straight retrieve quite as much. One that I'm going to work a bit more specifically with the rod and reel than I am just on a swimming style retrieve. And then all the way down to the S waiver, I'm probably going to file down the joint. So yeah, it's cool that the trap baits come with a very steep joint straight out of the pack. Um, yeah, a bit cheaper than you thought it might be, but 17 bucks. I would say that's reasonably priced for a bait like this. Good paint job, well made, and but it's small, right? So I think it's fairly priced. I wouldn't say it's underpriced. 20 bucks on Tackle Warehouse, um, and Carl's regular price. Okay, 20 bucks. The Sneaky Pete's 35. Yeah, that's what I said. Papa Pete's 55. Yep, that's one that I don't have, but probably will get eventually because I'm a fan of the Sneaky Pete, and I'm in the market for a bigger rod. They will handle that 8-inch Huddleston, which could also handle the Papa Pete and some slightly bigger baits. So yeah, 55 bucks for a big bait I think is very reasonable. 35 for the Sneaky Pete is good, but you can usually find that discounted on Discount Tackle if it's in stock. And Matt, I agree. Um, Pretty cheap and better than the S waiver. I agree, man. Matt says, "Do they look? They do look like heavy duty swivels, so they should be pretty strong. One thing I don't like about smaller bait makers is that they use swivels uh, they use smaller ones, and that they bend easy. Um, Interesting. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but this does look like a pretty heavy duty swivel. Um, yeah, I mean that looks like a 40 or 50 pound swivel. I mean it's no joke. It's just the fact that it's protruding, um, which weirds me out more than anything. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's a weak spot per se, but kind of weird. I didn't expect it. So I'm just a little bit surprised. It's one thing that stands out to me like a sore thumb when I first see that bait. Matt says, I bought some CFL Freedom Chatterbaits from Monster Bass. Have you tried them? I sure have. The CFL is a football head. Freedom has that patented system, and they're great, right? I like the Freedom system for sure. So these are the first two ones that I grabbed. Here's the original Freedom, and this is more of like a swim jig head with the chatterbait blade attached to the line tie. Now, Freedom is known for this screw on there. So if you grab a hook, you can literally screw it on there. You can interchange the hook onto this head. Whatever you want to have on here will work, which is very, very cool. So the Freedom Chatterbait was the original on the market. And then last year, I want to say, maybe 2 years ago, Z-Man and Freedom paired up again to create the CFL, which is the Chatterbait Freedom. Shoot, I don't know. CFL. This is a football head jig. Okay, so essentially, what you get here is the combination of a wobble head and a chatterbait. So a wobble head is a free swinging football head. And I don't have my terminal tackle box to show you guys right now what like a Biffle Hardhead looks like. But you know that it's got that that swing action to it. So that the head and the hook do things a little bit uniquely. And that is meant for replacing or using in lieu of a crankbait while bottom bouncing in rocky situations. Okay. But the Biffle Hardhead is an awesome presentation that is often underutilized. And so for Z-Man to partner up with Freedom and make essentially a hardhead where you can change out the hook that you want, whether you're using an EWG or an offset worm hook or a flipping hook, is so cool. And honestly, this is a bait that you need to be throwing to maintain bottom contact. Whereas the original Freedom Chatterbait is more of a swim jig style head. So this is one where you're going to be throwing in and around grass or around heavier cover, where you're throwing this in the middle or upper portion of the water column. And this guy, the CFL, you're throwing on bottom. You're dragging or swimming this thing and bumping bottom. So I have this in the 1/2 ounce and the 3/4 ounce in a couple of colors, in like the peanut butter and jelly. So I've got a brown head. Maybe it's more of a green pumpkin. And then I've got it in a white, which is all chipped up. These baits are getting stuck in this compartment. And then I've got it in the black. So I've kind of got my bases covered in terms of what I want to throw on there with white and green pumpkin and black. But I take the hooks off of those guys and just jam them all into this 3003 series box. And I've also got them in with the Z-Man Diesel chatterbaits, which is just a naked chatterbait with a pretty aggressive bait keeper on there that is more for a standalone swim bait or like a skirtless swim jig style presentation that is going to be more exposed hook than something that you would throw on the original Freedom chatterbait. And I've got them all jammed up top here. I've got like 10 different baits in there. So as you guys know, this Flambeau 3003 is my go-to box for chatterbaits. I'm going to pour just a little bit more and then dip out of here. It's already 11:10 my time. I should be going to bed sooner than later. I've been on for an hour and 45 minutes, but we're having good conversation, and I appreciate you guys. So, yeah, the number of people on here is dropping off just ever so slightly, but you don't need to leave. We're hanging out, guys. Bruce says, check Dobbins for a rod. They put the Boom Boom Champion line, the blowout section for 140. Gramps talked about them tonight. Yeah, I want to say Daniel or somebody else talked about them recently. So it's not the first time I've heard that, but I have not actually seriously looked into it. So, yeah, I know that Fred Rumbanis is serious about swim baits. Obviously, I've got the Papa Pete sitting here, or Papa Boom Boom. I've got the Baby Boom Boom. I've got the Boom Boom. I've got literally the whole series of those soft plastics. I believe in those soft plastic swim baits. I like Fred Rumbanis, and I think he's a great swim bait fisherman, and I would consider that rod, but am not necessarily in the market for that rod at the moment. I'll look at it. Okay, don't get me wrong, but thank you for the suggestion. We'll see. And Daniel says they don't even have that rod left in the swim bait model. So I mean that's pretty straightforward. And Matt says, what baits did you use on the CFL? The same as the regular chatterbait? No. I'm pretty much using Wobble Head style lures. Okay. For that, I'm going to creature style baits. I hate to say it, but my number one, well, I don't really hate to say it, but my number one is probably a Zoom Z-Craw. Now, they do make a Z-Craw Junior, which I think is just slightly better. And I've got that in a couple colors, none of which are in this box right now. But I would say perhaps my go-to is the Rage Bug. And I've got this in a million colors. I throw it in June Bug, Peanut Butter and Jelly, Green Pumpkin, Alabama Craw. I absolutely love the Rage Bug when thrown on a Wobble Head. Now, I throw the chameleon color, which I talk about pretty frequently. That's the Magnum Rage Bug. I just sent a pack of the chameleon Rage Bugs to our buddy Ron Hawley, but I always have these in stock. Will kind of never let myself run out of these. Check out this color pattern. These vary a little bit, but from like an iridescent blue and a bright green with red flake to a peanut butter on bottom. And these do not run super consistent, but I love these baits. So check out this one. It's more of a, I don't want to call that watermelon red because it's more like a bright green. And then this has the blue and brown on the bottom. So I'm telling you, the chameleon color of the Rage Bug is still underrated. A lot of people have talked about it for a long time, and for a number of years, it's been a sleeper for me, and one that I try not to use too much, but always have in stock. And so I will use a creature style bait that is usually flatter in nature on that TFL because I'm trying to keep contact with the bottom and I want it to flap and I want it to look flat on bottom. So, you could go with a 6 cent stroker craw or a Guggenbaits Bandito bug. Uh, but again, I think the Zoom Z craw, I think the Strike King Rage Bug, I think the Reaction Innovations Spicy Beaver are all awesome, awesome options. So that's pretty much where I stay. Matt says also the Daiwa DX swim bait rod is a great budget rod. Love mine. Definitely a great blank for the price. Feels good in hands. Appreciate that. Megaforce says swim baits for trailers. Is that a question or what are you saying? Swim baits for trailers. I use them on swim jigs. I use them on the back of round ball jig heads. I use them on chatterbaits sometimes, mostly rigged upside down. But swim baits for trailers, mostly on swim jigs. I'll say that. Bruce says, "What do you think about the Aired X so far?" I think it's good looking. I haven't tried it yet, man. I just opened it like a week ago. I think it feels light. I think it feels strong. And when I test the action of it, it feels right for a 7.3 medium heavy fast action. It feels right. I I don't know what to say other than that. I have not given it a try. I can't speak to its durability or how it acts once it's actually loaded up. But holding it in hand and testing the action of it, it feels good. 803 swim bait rod, says Daniel, only up to 2 ounces. No, the 803, weird. Yeah, the 806 is what I was looking for. That's weird. Medium. I was looking for more of a heavy to extra heavy. Yeah, the 806 swim bait. Abe says he has that, and that's what I was looking for. I blinked. You're right about that, Abe. I not only did I blink, but I loaded everything in my cart and I let it sit there for like 2 weeks because I could. That sale at Tackle Warehouse was valid for a long ass time, and I did not actually pull the trigger until it was too late. So that's why I got the Daiwa Aired X just to see what a good budget rod is like as opposed to a solid but budget friendly big swim bait rod is like. And that's because I was torn between that 806 from Dobbins and the Daiwa Aired X swim bait rod in the extra heavy, which is same price or cheaper, but was not on sale. So I was just, torn between those. You know what I mean? "803 boom boom rod." It's kind of silly, Daniel. Doesn't seem like a boom boom rod. But guys, I've been on for an hour and 55 minutes. It's 11, almost 20 my time. Um, I've got a fair amount of bourbon here left. So if you guys have one or two more questions, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, I'm going to dip out of here in 1 second. I've got a million baits in front of me, a lot to talk about. Daniel, here's your quick preview. All right. Show me how to rig a swim bait upside down on a chatterbait. What? All right. I'll show you with the Z-Man so that I can put it back in the package. How about that? What? I thought I had that diesel minnows sitting here. What? Turbo razor shads, turbocross, goats. What? All right, I don't care. All right, I'm gonna pull down a 3.8-inch Kitech. And this is in like a Tennessee shad color. Okay. Now, this is a bladed jig, although this is homemade. And you'll see that theoretically this guy pairs up nicely. So here's the issue with rigging a bladed jig and a swim bait like you would ordinarily. The blade is going to displace a lot of water and push water behind the bait. And what it's going to make the swim bait do, this tail that would ordinarily be kicking is going to rise up, and it's just going to kind of wag. It's not going to kick like it would. Ordinarily on a swim jig, this thing is going to kick side to side. On a chatterbait, it's just going to kind of slowly wag side to side. So what you do is you rig this thing upside down. First, you measure to see where it comes out. Then you thread it on. You come out the back and you push it up on there. And then what you have is a bladed jig that is rigged with the tail up instead of down, okay? So then what happens is as this blade pushes water, this tail doesn't want to rise. In fact, it just a little bit more slowly and methodically kicks in conjunction with the vibration of the blade as opposed to at its own speed. So that is a trick that you need to know. And if you prefer to throw swim bait trailers on the back of bladed jigs, rig them upside down. Okay. This is a 3.8-inch on the back of this quarter-ounce swim jig, and it fits perfectly, as you guys can see. So, sorry, I'm not sorry that was rigged ideally. Riley says, Tyler, hope you have a good night, good rest of your week, and your family and everyone else. Hope you have a good week and rest of your night. Thailand's and homeless / God bless. God bless to you, Riley, as well. Thank you very much for hanging out. No homelessness, right? We don't need to be homeless. Yes, Daniel, I've got the reels. All right. Daniel, you guys are going to have to help me out with what these things go for full retail. I don't know if they sell this reel individually or not. This is the Abu Garcia Roxanne. Wow, that's not focusing. It focused for like 1 second there, and that ain't cool. So this is the Roxani, Roxani by Abu Garcia. This thing obviously is in like a matte black. It's a right-handed retrieve. And this is a very high, I don't want to say high end, but very high quality Abu Garcia reel. Again, I've used this either 0 or 1 time. I think 0. I spooled this up with I think 50-pound braid on there. That's a Red Power Pro. This thing is super smooth, and it's a 7-to-1 gear ratio if I'm not mistaken. It's weird that they don't say 7-1-to-1, 29 inches per turn. I really like how wide these handles are. It's obviously got a red and black theme to it, a matte finish. I've put red braid on there to match just because I'm stupid like that. But you guys tell me, what is that reel retail for? 200 in the combo, says Daniel. Not sure, just the reel. If I had to guess, 120 for the reel, 80 for the rod, something like that. Yeah, Bruce says 150 for the reel. I don't know. Okay, next up, and this is much cheaper. This is the Lose Classic Pro. So this is a reel that they sold at Walmart, and maybe they still do, right? This is the Speed Spool Classic Pro. It's got some gold accents on it. I don't particularly love the handles that come on it. These are just a standard rubber that is not tacky. So I throw these real grips on there. You know, I like the shape of the reel handles, but that's about it. I want to say this reel retails for like $60. It's affordable, right? And this guy is in a 7.5-to-1 gear ratio. So also a 7-speed reel, but this guy comes with 5 bearings in it. And I think the Abba Garcia has, I don't know, twice as many. Okay. The Classic Pro feels smooth, but yeah, I don't know what to say. It's nice. It doesn't click on the spool tension. It does click on the drag. Whereas on the Abba Garcia, it clicks on the drag and it clicks on the spool tension. And lastly, those are both right-handed reels. And lastly is another one that is notorious for being sold on combos. And this is the Lose Custom Black. This is a left-handed reel and not a right-handed. I really like this reel. Have been using it for the last 2 seasons and picked up a third one last season. This one has been used maybe 1 time, has no wear and tear on it. It's a 7.5-to-1 gear ratio. And this is a lefty, like I said. This I picked up as mostly like a frogging or flipping stick. I want to say it's got 65-pound braid in a moss green color. So all these have braid already on them. Obviously, you don't need to leave the braid on them if you don't want them. But those are all good reels. Somewhere in the ballpark of, that Classic Pro retails for $60. The others would go from anywhere from 100 to 150 bucks. I don't quite know that, but I'm willing to get rid of any or all of these, and they're great reels. I prefer a left-handed reel just because I grew up fly fishing, right? I'm a righty. I like to cast with my dominant hand and reel with my less dominant hand. Set the hook with my dominant hand. And I just don't quite understand why some people cast with their dominant hand, switch hands, reel with their dominant hand, and set the hook with their non-dominant hand. Um, why do you need your dominant hand to reel and your non-dominant hand to set that hook? If it were me, I want to be able to make that cast and set that hook with my dominant hand. I can get used to retrieving a bait and reeling and stripping line and doing everything that is secondary with my non-dominant hand. That's just me. Again, everybody does things differently, but I grew up fly fishing where it was key to maintain your line control with your non-dominant hand and cast and mend your line. Use your rod with your dominant hand and set the hook with your dominant hand. So, whatever, doesn't matter. Um, Daniel says that's what I'm thinking too with left hand reeling. Um, yeah. And if you're interested in left hand reeling, which I think you'd be surprised at how quickly you could get used to using a left hand retrieve reel uh, if you've only used right handed reels, or if you're newer to it and you are a righty, then I think you would like a left handed retrieve reel. So let me know if you're interested. If you'd like a left-handed retrieve reel, I might be able to throw you a couple of other options. And because I've got a couple other reels that just either haven't been used or are lightly used, it totally depends on what you're in the market for, what your budget is, and yeah, I'm willing to work with you. You know, I've got a few more reels than I need, at least a few reels that don't get used every year or that get rotated out that are lightly used. So let me know. Abe, no problem, man. Bruce says I can use left or right for whichever reason. Lefty, I wouldn't have to twitch a jerk bait or retrieve. Um, for me, it's angle of cast, right? As a bank angler, I'm casting to my right. To you guys, it looks like that. Um, and then I'm working the bait toward me, but out toward the water as well. My rod is pointed at the water and out, as opposed to out from the bank. It just it lowers the risk of messing with the rod, and then when you need to set the hook, of anything going wrong. So if I were to do the same and cast the same direction with a righty, it's really hard for me to work the rod with my non-dominant hand and just pick up the slack with my dominant, as opposed to say casting the other direction and retrieving and working pointed out toward the water and pulling down toward me and pulling up the slack. So that's the only situation is when I'm working the bank that I want to be pointed out toward the water. So with a righty, I'll be going to my left, and with a lefty, I'll be going to my right. Otherwise, I can make do with a lefty anytime, and be just great with it, no problem, because I'm using my dominant hand to set the hook as a righty. So just me, okay? Daniel says I'm trying to get a few more combos set up this year. I can worry later about being more picky. All right, well, hit me up, Daniel. I've got at least these three, but two of these are righty, one is lefty because you had suggested that you wanted a lefty. I do highly recommend this reel. And again, this is the Lose Custom Black. I don't know if I said that right earlier. And I really like this reel. I have three of them at the moment. This is my least used one. It's in almost mint condition, if not mint. Um, and I'd be willing to get rid of it for, I don't know, $100. Totally on you. All right. If you're not willing to spend $100 on a reel, we could talk about something else, maybe. But let me know. Okay. That is one that I really like and think would stand the test of time. The Classic Pro, on the other hand, it's not as high quality. The bearings, the brakes, the handles, everything, it's a cheapish reel. The Custom Black, on the other hand, comes on a combo that's like $230. So what you're talking about is more like $130 or $140 reel and a rod that's $100, something like that. So anyway, hit me up after we're done here. Guys, I gotta head to bed. I have to pack the car still. We're leaving tomorrow morning early. I'm going to pick up. I'm loading my three kids in the car along with all of our stuff for the weekend, and we're leaving at like 7, maybe a few minutes before 7 tomorrow morning. Going to pick my wife up from work. She's going to breastfeed our baby, and we're going to drive straight up to the mountains. And I'm going to go ski in the morning. I'll probably ski 10:30, 11 o'clock, and ski for some 3 or 4 hours, and get a decent day in. Hopefully, the snow quality is pretty good. It was snowing today, so yes, Daniel, Instagram. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Hit me up on Instagram. I'll hop on tonight. Check that out if you want. I'll be up for the next hour, maybe not quite hour, but I got to do some packing and loading the car. And yeah, really appreciate you guys hanging out. 2 hours and almost 15 minutes chilling tonight. Super fun. Of course, I started this up saying I'd be on for an hour. So thank you guys very much for the support. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you again in the next one. Cheers.